is the Russian constructionist Ivan Leonidov, who, in addition to drawing these beautiful perspectives of the commissariat of the heavy industry, which he's very famous for, he used a lot of orthographic drawings in order to organize buildings. And I guess what interested me in Ivan's, as well as the other constructionist work, is that they ask a lot of simple questions on the nature of geometry as well as architecture drawings in order to inform themselves. So sort of relying on external references, they would rely on architectural techniques to develop design methods. So this is one of my earliest research, I guess. This was really early to my second year. So from an early point, I developed like kind of an interest in differentiating between different architectural drawing techniques, mainly between the perspective and the axonometric. And it relied basically on the central premise that a perspective has a viewing point that is defined in its relationship to the viewed object in time and space, while the orthographic drawings, in their generality, they rely on a viewing plane that can be anywhere or at any time. And this is the axonometric clock, which tries to challenge that by saying that the three axes of an axonometric, x, y, and z, resemble the hands of a clock, so it relates to a specific time, as well as that scale can tell us the distance between that plane and the object. Anyway, so this is basically all I've done throughout my degree, which is constantly doing these investigations into drawing. And when I designed a prison for fraudsters, for bankers who committed a fraud, it was a copy of Ivan Leonidov's commissariat, like you saw with the two towers, but dressed up as a postmodern. And it was mainly just an exercise in drawing. So you had the frontal axonometric kind of describing the building, so front axis as a description, while the perspective kind of reveals a specific narrative. So it became like, I continue with that differentiation, which is orthographic kind of describes while perspectives narrate. Ended up eventually drawing loads and loads of objects, and really stuck with really basic questions sometimes, how to orient that object. If you want, I didn't really draw architecture after that, I was just drawing objects. So I tried to kind of get out of that problem that it wasn't spatial, these orthographic drawings, by trying to tell narratives within the, by drawing little stories within my projects. So if you look at one of the details, this is the frame house. That was the frame house, or parts of the frame house, and it was a reimagining of the Scouts' contribution to the Festival of Britain. And over here you see a lot of these elements. If you get closer to the drawing, you'd see a lot of these children doing stuff and using these different architecture differently. So that was my way of getting out of it. To get back to this exhibition, my biggest problem was always the section, really. The section was a very curious case, and I think it's very important when you're talking about Tom and James's work, is to recognize that they developed a lot of it through the section. The section is basically, for me, a very aggressive viewing plane. It cuts through the architecture, and by that act of cutting, it reveals the body of that architecture, and it addresses very important questions about the architecture. It addresses questions about its structure and its construction, as well as internal qualities within it. But most importantly, it reveals the architectural relationship to the ground. And I think this is what really strikes me about eventually Tom and James' work, is that as well as each and every drawing is very aware, if you look around you, it's very aware of what it's trying to say through what means of representation or projection it uses, but also that they have developed programs, that the sectional drawings that they were developing throughout, developed programs that are different and they're very unique today. One of the, like, just to say it very simply, Tom's work is it uses excavation, and it's about this relationship of how it sprawls through within the earth and within the ground, and then you have all of these spaces. So the technique of drawing often develops a certain type of architecture and a program. And I think that's what I kind of wanted to link back. I guess the historical references are always there, you can never ignore them. But I wanted to kind of shed a light on the drawing technique and its relationship to what type of architecture these guys have developed. That's my talk.